Hello, everybody. It's Dr. B and Elizabeth. Hey, everybody. Okay, you might notice a little bit of bruising on Elizabeth today. I guarantee you, it's not a maternal thing here, but she got a little wild in my suitcase while we were traveling, and I can't get the smears off of her nose and face, but we'll work on that for next time. Anyway, welcome to our Look to the Children show with ChiroSecure. It's Dr. B and Elizabeth, and we are going to start our new series today. Are you excited, girlfriend? I am excited. In the know, keeping you in the know with preconception and prenatal amazing golden pearls in order to help turn the tide for the future of neural development. So let's get this show on the road. We're going to go to our slides. Elizabeth, you're going to take a nap for a little bit, and we're going to have some fun today. So keeping you in the know and ChiroSecure, you are an amazing backbone to our profession. Thank you so much for all you do and allowing us to have this space to share this amazing knowledge. So we appreciate you. So let's get down and dirty. We're going to talk about prenatal pain, low back pain with mamas, but we're also going to talk about preconception, prenatal concerns when it comes to certain over-the-counter medications that hold acetaminophen. And many of you may have heard the news out in the last several months about the concerns about that there is a class action lawsuit with regard to acetaminophen consumed by mamas during the prenatal period. Those of us that have been working in the autism world for a long time, this is not new information. This is a couple decades old. It's just coming to the forefront now. But I want to make you aware of things that you can do in order to help turn the tide and avoid potential long-term circumstances from the neural developmental realm. So about 50 to 70% of pregnant mamas worldwide report that they suffer from low back pain. We see that in our offices all the time, right? Great way to start networking with OBs and so forth in your community. How can you help? More than 65% of women in the United States and about 50% across Europe report using some kind of pain relief with acetaminophen in it during pregnancy. And this is a concern of ours. The other concern of ours is that this was one of the products that holds acetaminophen is Tylenol, and that was widely used recommended during the pandemic era for aches, pains, fevers, etc. So we need to be mindful of what this can mean, not only for the fiddle farts that are presenting to our offices that are old already, 5, 6, 8 years old, etc., that have some neurodevelopmental challenges, but what this can mean for future little fiddle farts presenting post-pandemic. If moms had consumed some of these pain relievers because they were sick during that time period of the pandemic. So we've known for quite some time now that acetaminophen is associated with a higher risk of autism, ADHD, and asthma, 3 A's. And that's usually in the if they were consumed during the prenatal period and the early developmental years. So we look at the first 1,000 days of life. That's the prenatal period and the first 2 years postnatally. That's kind of the critical time when we look at this in consideration with neurodevelopmental challenges. A recent study, 2021, came out and it looked at 19% were more likely to develop autism if they were exposed to acetaminophen before birth. They had a 19% higher likelihood of developing autism and a 21% higher likelihood to develop ADHD. Now, if you hold on with me just for a few minutes, I'm going to give you the why behind this so you understand, and I'll give you some things key pearls to think about of how you can be on the forefront of intervening before it becomes a developmental challenge. The other thing to understand is acetaminophen also goes under paracetamol. So that's kind of a generic name there. So lots of times people say, well, I didn't take acetaminophen, but other countries refer to it as paracetamol. So keep that in mind. They've also done, this was in 2020, where they looked at umbilical cord markers for levels of acetaminophen in there. And what their conclusion was, those that were detected with cord biomarkers of acetamin were associated with a significantly higher risk of later on being diagnosed on the autism spectrum and or ADHD. And their conclusion was that we need to be concerned about neurodevelopmental disorders if they were exposed to acetaminophen during the prenatal and early years of life. Asthma is another one. They looked at a higher risk of asthma. And those, ADD, ADHD, autism, asthma, the A's tend to, allergies tend to all go together. We see a multiple diagnoses or labels oftentimes, and those are the A's that kind of go together. They looked at acetaminophen users here were 63% more likely to have asthmatic issues compared to non-users of acetaminophen. Keep in mind that Tylenol gets the biggest bum rap with acetaminophen, but there's a lot of over-the-counter sleep aids. There's over-the-counter cold and flu medications. There's a lot of things that can contain acetaminophen. So it's going to be key when we want to look at educational purposes for parents to understand that reading labels is going to be an important factor for them to be able to see, yes, am I consuming something that potentially can be a risk for neurodevelopmental challenges down the road? And we'll talk about that when we wrap this up. This was a study that came out in 2022, so it's a recent study. I tried to pull the most recent ones to share with you. And they looked that it was proven to be safe with regards to liver activity. However, the drug was never shown to be safe for neurodevelopmental issues. So these are things that are now coming more to light and more to the forefront that we need all of you to be very aware of in order to create an educational campaign for your community. This was another one in 2022. The study outcomes included autism, intelligent levels, ADHD, language acquisition and language delays, executive function concerns, communication concerns, behavioral concerns, again, across the board, psychomotor, neurodevelopmental challenges. All of the studies showed an association between acetaminophen use and these listed neurodevelopmental outcomes. So what are we looking at here? What is one of the potential mechanisms that is associated with acetaminophen use in prenatal and early postnatal life? Acetaminophen, one dose is said to knock out our master antioxidant, which is called glutathione. Glutathione is basically puts the fire out. It shuts down our oxidative stress. It is needed for killing off pathogens and free radicals and etc. When we get depleted of this master antioxidant, we are going to be more susceptible to cellular destruction, especially during those years of neuroplastic development. That first 1,000 days is critical. Prenatal period and the first 2 years postnatally. So when we can't fight the fire, when mom can't fight the fire, if mom is consuming the product and her ability to shut down, kill off pathogens, to control oxidative stress, we know that maternal inflammatory markers, okay, maternal immune activation, that's what it's called, MIA, maternal immune activation. Mom's immune system is activated because it's trying to take care of whatever destructive properties she has in her body. Viruses, bacteria, environmental toxins, you name it. MIA, mom's immune system becomes activated, is associated with autism. So perhaps that's one of the links. Mom doesn't have the fuel to take care of her load. That inflammatory process now is going to be handed down to baby. If baby, you think about it, lots of times with circumcisions, with other medical procedures, other interventions, oftentimes it's recommended to give baby a little bit of Tylenol to take the pain away, to take the edge off. So that child just underwent a potentially stressful intervention, and their immune system, because of a stress response, is already hyperactive. And then we give them something that they cannot combat that stressor, like acetaminophen, that knocks down their immune system more. Now it's just a recipe for disaster. So it's important for us to understand just the basics here. There's another mechanism that is involved, but it's way too detailed to go into at this point. I covered that in our Developing Minds program. So just remember that for the most part, generally speaking, is acetaminophen knocks down our master antioxidant, glutathione. Can't put the fire out on our allostatic load of pathogens, of toxins. And this increased toxic load in mom or in baby is what is so much tied to our increase in neurodevelopmental challenges like ADD, ADHD, autism, and asthma. So hopefully that kind of ties it together for you. Now, what do you want to look at? Getting a good history. And especially given that this, in the last 3 years over the pandemic era, more and more people were potentially exposed to taking over-the-counter medications that contained acetaminophen. There's a high likelihood that we can see some more neurodevelopmental challenges coming our way over the next decade. But if we can intervene with educational tools, you can help from that train derailing and that child having more struggles. So taking a good history from both parents' side, especially mama, looking at has she regularly consumed over-the-counter or prescription products that may have contained acetaminophen or paracetamol. Keeping in mind that don't just use the one product of Tylenol. Again, it can be in many over-the-counter medications, sleep aids, like I said, cold and flu, over-the-counter medications, etc. Some allergy medications. So being able to take a good history and seeing preconception-wise, was mom potentially exposed to something where her immune system is not up to par and she has too high of a toxic load, that you want to maybe recommend some interventions prior to her conceiving? Great way to go. That would lead us to number 4 here, supporting our detoxification pathways. If you are not keen on that, if it's something that doesn't float your boat, it's not your bag of chips, it's cool. But perhaps work with another practitioner in your community, a naturopath, another chiro that is well versed in these types of cases, an MD, anybody that can help support you and what you do and help support mom preconception wise. Golden. Then we come to the prenatal period. During the prenatal period, let's educate them on chiropractic care for pain relief, for lower back pain relief during her pregnancy. B, educate them on some more natural remedies for a curcumin, turmeric, if they can tolerate those Arnica montana. These are some natural things to look at for some pain relief in addition to your awesome adjustment. But also educating them on reading labels, looking at things, trying not to consume that which is potentially an issue for the baby later on. So we need to get a good history. Have they consumed those in the past? How do we now, before they conceive, help support their system and restore that lack of glutathione and any potential toxic load that they may be carrying? Education, preconception, and prenatal, like we talked about. Have flyers, have a class in your office, whatever. Get with OBs, get with general practitioners, give them some of these studies and this information. Allow them to know what you have to offer, especially in regard to lower back pain, headaches, etc., that can help pregnant mamas during those months. And then is really, if there was an exposure, is really understanding proper neurodevelopmental milestones. I think sometimes we, in our profession, we hone in on, excuse me, specifically motor milestones, but we want to look at 4 components of proper milestones. We want to look at language, social milestones, fine motor, and gross motor. So there's 4 different areas of milestones that we want to be able to be mindful of. Again, if it's not your BOC, if it's not in your camp, you're not bag of chips, look at some further educational classes to understand. At least you can pinpoint and you can red flag some of these markers, or you work with another individual in your community, whether it be another chiro, whether it be a PT, somebody else that is well versed on picking up little red flags that might indicate this little fiddle fart's derailing just a bit off our normal course of trajectory of development in social skills, in language skills, and fine motor skills, and gross motor skills, and what are some things we can intervene on in addition to our amazing adjustment that can help get this little one on track. And then, as we said, support detox pathways, potentially in the baby as well. That's a whole different bag of chips because you don't want to do a lot of heavy stuff in the infant years. But there are some things to look at to potentially help in a safe way allow for that child's detoxification pathways to be open as possible. Adjustments are going to be one of them. But again, understanding the mechanism behind the adjustment and why that would work is going to be key. And then supporting the microbiome can be a huge thing here. And one tidbit, individuals, I work with a lot of kiddos on the spectrum with a lot of severe challenges. One little tidbit is if a person tends to be graying earlier in life, you can see my gray hair. Now I'm giving my little secrets away. But if you see that on a young child, I've seen it on 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds, where usually it's just like a patch of gray hair. That is often a sign that they are low in glutathione because it's wiping out, it's zapping out the color in the hair. So Just a little tidbit there for you to know. Anyway, hopefully this gives you some things to think about. You can go back, look at the studies, capture them, get them, pull them down off the internet. Know these 4 little tidbits to help you help your community, and let's keep the tide rolling in a good direction from a neurodevelopment perspective. Hopefully you gained some pearls, and again, ChiroSecure, you are awesome for having our backs at all times. There's no other way to support our profession other than having great malpractice coverage and a great way to share our messages. And until next month is February. It is Valentine's Day. By the way, I know what I'm going to share with you for February. Yeah, I got it. We're going to share new tidbits of secrets on foods and dyes and etc. because it's a really red month, a red dye month. And we're going to talk about not red dye just making the brain crazy, but how it also affects other things. That'll be fun. So until then, Elizabeth and I are bidding you adieu. You will see another guest the first Thursday of next month, and I'll be back the third Thursday of February. Until then, love, peace, and chicken grease.
Today's Pediatrics show, Look to the Children, was brought to you by ChiroSecure.